He's, first of all, a friend, colleague, comrade, fantastic activist, and currently working as an independent journalist. He's trying to take a break, but we keep inviting him along to things like this to keep him busy. But founder and former head of investigations at Declassified UK, Matt Kennard.
Firstly, it's great to be here. Stop the War has come into its own over the past year. I mean, it's done a lot of great work over the past 2 decades, but there's few and far between organisations which are organising events like this and speaking stridently about the genocide in Gaza, which is allowed to happen largely through complicity, through silence from our mainstream media. And that's what I kind of want to focus on today, because at Declassified, which I'm no longer at, but over the past year we've been focusing on this country's role in the genocide. And we're a small organisation, you know. We have basically 2 full-time reporters, so we don't have many resources. But we've basically done all the important work on the UK role in Gaza, which is not complicity, it's participation. And that is insane, because we have a huge media infrastructure in this country. If you think about organisations like the BBC, The Guardian, Telegraph, Mail, Mirror, there's thousands of journalists in this country who, if we had a media system which was doing what it should do, which is what you're taught it does in journalism school, which is be a check on power, reveal hidden truths that the state wants buried, then all of them would have been doing this work, but none of them have. So for me, it's been very clarifying about how our system works on a general level, but particularly the media, because the main way they've done it with the Gaza genocide, well, there's 2 ways they've created the mood music which Israel needs to complete its genocide. One is just regurgitating the lies of Israel continually, and you know when an Israeli spokesman is lying because their lips are moving. They literally they don't ever tell the truth about anything. And that started straight away after October 7th, when all these stories about what happened on October 7th, which were just, even on the face of it, just seemed ridiculous. Like, you know, the putting babies in ovens, beheading babies, which all mass rape, all of it turned out to be untrue. And some of the papers have since clarified it, but it doesn't matter because the damage was done then. They regurgitated it all, created the conditions for Israel to do what it was doing. That's one of the main mechanisms through which the media is complicit. But another one is, as I mentioned, the silence and the omission. So all the stories we've done about the UK role in the genocide, none of them have got into the mainstream media, none of them. And this is not a small role. This is not, and it's not just arms. And funnily enough, if you look at the pressure that has been put on the government, it's nearly, even from activists, it's all about arms, which is good. We need to have an arms embargo on Israel. It should have happened a long, long time ago. But that pressure has only been brought to bear because of the media has covered it a little bit. And you know, they recently suspended 30 arms licenses, which only comprised 8% of the arms licenses for Israel, and didn't include bits for the parts for the F-35, which actually, if they had included that, could have had a detrimental impact on the genocidal war machine that Israel is running. So it was kind of window dressing, but they only did that because of popular pressure. If the media was doing its job and talking about the other more important role that Britain is playing in terms of intelligence and logistics, then there would be pressure on the government to ground the 2 spy flights that they're sending over Gaza every day. There would be pressure to stop them using our base on Cyprus as the main logistics and intelligence hub for Israel to conduct its genocide. So that is why I believe the media is complicit, because if they use their resources to expose the reality, or even just to follow up on our stories, then this stuff would probably come to an end. And this goes much further than Palestine as well. The whole system is held up by the fact that people do not understand our real role in the world. And they don't understand the real role in the world because they're not told by the media. The media operates, the propaganda mainly is done by omission, and they never tell you the nuts and bolts of what our real role is in the world. So I think that we have more clarity now than we've ever had, because social media has allowed us to circumvent the mainstream media. We didn't have these tools 20 years ago, and it was much easier for the mainstream media to uphold these myths that they do about being a check on power, holding power to account, revealing the truth. Now people are looking at their phones and seeing the daily wanton war crimes of Israel, you know, some of the worst things we've ever seen in our lives. Targeting of children, elders, women, and they're seeing the media reaction to that, and they're cross-referencing the two and saying, well, I'm being lied to here, or at least I'm not being told the full truth. And from people I've talked to who aren't probably like us in this room, seasoned in the politics and have been interested in it for a long time, people who are innocent to this stuff, there is an awakening on a societal-wide level about what our media is, because they're saying, well, if they're lying to me about Palestine, if they're lying to me about genocide in Gaza, they're probably lying to me about everything, and the answer is yes, they are. But then the other side of that is, like, you know what Rosa Luxemburg said, those who don't move don't notice their chains. So most of the journalists in mainstream media will say, well, I can write what I want. It's not the Soviet Union. They're not telling me what to write. They're not going to put me in jail. But the point is, the journalists that have been revealing the true role of our government, and also the role of the Israel lobby in this country, which is also another reason for the media getting behind the genocide, is the Israel lobby, because there's so much flack put on media organisations which publish truthful accounts of what is happening in Gaza. But the journalists that are doing that are being arrested under terrorism legislation, and it is extremely sinister and unprecedented what we're seeing. Just last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, Asa Winstanley, a very, very good journalist for the Electronic Intifada, was woken pre-dawn by a group of counter-terrorism police who went into his home and took all his electronic devices and didn't even arrest him or charge him. So in this country, you can have the police not even charge you and come and take all your stuff, which is a scary realization. Before that, Sarah Wilkinson, who's a prominent journalist on Twitter who just sends regular updates on Gaza, she was raided by police. They tipped over the urn with her mum's ashes, which she had to scrape off the floor. She was bundled into a van, interrogated. Richard Medhurst was held for 23 hours in solitary confinement the week before at Heathrow. Just yesterday, Natalie Strecker, who's a very good activist in Jersey, was raided by the police. So this is quite scary stuff, and it's all being done at the behest of a genocidal state, which makes it even, our democracy has been dismantled, and the same thing is happening in the United States to support a genocidal apartheid state. I'll add to this, everything I've just told you, not one word about it has appeared in the mainstream media. Not one. Asa, Sarah, Richard, Natalie, so far, not one word has appeared, including The Guardian. Not one word has appeared. So you realise Gaza has exposed that the public realm is undefended in this country. When they come for all of us, the media, the civil society, which we're told defends these principles, which undergird our whole understanding of our society, they're nowhere. So Gaza, for me, has, I mean, we knew all this stuff. If you push the boundaries too much, you'll find out that this is all we're told evaporates. But Gaza has really exposed that, and it's quite scary. Obviously, our reaction as journalists, as activists, as people interested in truth, should be to double down and to go harder, because, as Tony Benn said, if you don't use your freedoms, they disappear. So we have to keep doing it, because if you start acting in a way that the state wants you to, just because you're scared, then that is a slippery slope that ends with authoritarianism, dictatorship, and all the rest of it. So it's a very, very critical time. I feel like it's a turning point in world history. And amidst the horror, there is hope, obviously, because the other reason that the state is cracking down on independent media, on journalists, on activists, is because they have lost control of the narrative completely. Everyone's seen too much over the past year. They've seen horrors that have changed most of us, and they've seen our government support it, participate in it, and defend it. And that's not just the Tories, that's Labour as well. So there's also an understanding that we don't live in a real democracy, because we can't vote, we can't have a vote which might get a party to power which is anti-genocide. all the mainstream parties are genocidal, or the two mainstream parties. So that these realizations are happening, have happened, and we need to crystallize the new generations which are coming to understand the world in a way that maybe hasn't happened before, and the role of our government. And obviously the cost has been way too high with the people of Gaza, but there is, I do see quite a lot of hope in that, and I do see the reaction of the state, the repression, as a sign that they have lost control of the narrative. How many people have to die before things get better is an open question, and probably is a lot, but in the long term, I think that things are changing for the better in terms of the ground being created for a world based on truth and justice.